Y'all, hi. Don't I seem a lot better since last week? Don't I? No? I don't know. I don't know what your answer was to that, but I'll tell you right now, I am. Okay. If you can't tell, first and foremost, okay, I am thanking God just to see another day. Okay. Is that all right with y'all? Even if it's not, that's just what that's how I'm feeling. Okay. Because it's true. I have always been one to really like start my day truly, like making sure that I thank God just for another moment to breathe, literally, to inhale, to exhale, for the fact that He, saw me through the night and breathe, breath in my nostrils, and gave me the ability to inhale and exhale on my own and just be in my right mind and things like that. Like I always take the time to do that. And baby, yeah, it's like it's exponential now. Like I mean it to the degree. Okay. Like degree these days. And so I am thanking God just to be before you guys one more time. Um yeah, because I was trying to figure out if I was gonna do intro or if I was gonna give y'all like a recap. Well, I guess we'll intro and then give recap. I don't know. I don't know how those things work, but we're just gonna go with it. So welcome and or welcome back to another episode of the B Mix right here on BeExposedRadio.com. Okay. With Thursday nights at 8 p.m. are for only for everybody. The unseen, the unheard, the overlooked, the forgotten, whether we've forgotten part of you or for the person that just does not belong anywhere, the me. B. So welcome and welcome back. Sorry, I don't know, my eyes started like itching. Um, so you know that it's always raw material, authentic conversation here because I don't know any other way to be but to be transparent. And I live and thrive really through my vulnerability. I don't really know how to just be like, no, that's mine. Let me keep it. I don't really know that. I don't think it's to a fault of my own. It's been working right now. It's been a blessing since I decided to unmute myself just with this show alone. I literally started off the B Mix. I keep saying it. We're inching closer and closer, almost a year ago, so last July. Inching more closer to that. But I started off by saying like, "Hey, it's me. I finally decided to unmute myself, so here I am." So again, here I am, just telling y'all about it. With that being said. No. Before we get there, because again, there's business to take care of. So, if this is your first time tuning into the B Mix, welcome. And I am in love with this calendar from the Equal Justice Initiative (EJI), and it is a calendar of a history of racial injustice. And so I got it. One time I'd seen it advertised really was for Black History Month. No ding to them. It was just the first time the algorithms worked out to kind of show me. And so I got it in time for that. And so I've been sharing it ever since because it literally has something on every day of the calendar here, every single day. And this is not the first year of it. When I was on the website getting one for my dad more recently, I saw that there was one for 2019 as well as for last year, 2020. So of course I have the 2021 one. Yeah. But it blows my mind because I guess my first brain, right? So first thought is, oh my God, it was so much like to have it throughout the whole day. I mean the whole year. And then so much to where you can have a different one. I'm assuming that there are different facts and history points being shared each calendar that they produced thus far. Just for 3 years, for 365 or 66 on leap year, for 3 consecutive years, that's a lot of injustice. And then we know that there's more than that. That's so to share this with you, this is the picture for April. I have to share it because it's pretty significant. That is just it's mind blowing. Today being oh the Libby. Today is little Liberty, her eighth birthday. Oh my gosh, love that little girl. One of my favorite chocolate girls. And so today is Thursday, April 29th in 1992, a lot more recently than we've been talking about. An all white jury finds the officers who violently beat Rodney King, a young black man in Los Angeles, not guilty, sparking an uprising in which more than 50 people died and over 2,000. Don't you love the media? Even though this is made by us, made by us for us. Um, but and just how the standard, I guess, that's somewhat like written or expected for media to follow, just because in my I don't know. I won't go into it because I never really get into these things. I just really like to share them with you and let your thoughts, be provoked, and then hopefully just spark some conversation for you to have elsewhere or here. I'm always open and willing for you to call in or text or comment about any um, of the what am I saying of these like these history facts, right? So again, you can always call in 443-642-9403 or text same number 443-642-9403 or comment as you are liking and sharing the show to let me know what that says to you. I mean, I'm not gonna guide the conversation or anything, but we definitely just had a verdict in the trial with Derek Chauvin, where he was found guilty on all charges of the murder of George Floyd. And so while we still have not received justice, we at least got a taste of a sample, right? So a taste of a sample. Imagine that. I ain't even talking about the whole sample that you get from Sam's Club. Like I ain't saying that. So I was looking at my hair. Oh, talking so am I very low? I'm sorry, y'all. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna get into I'm gonna come up a little bit more. Let me know where I can come because this kind of talk goes into sorry, y'all. I'm reading the chat from my producer. And I am talking low. I even just realized that. But first of all, I just want to let y'all know and share he cracks me up. He's very ignorant because he started off by asking me, "Are you hiding from someone?" I was about to explain because I know I keep looking up because I'm looking at how my hair is falling across my forehead. But he's talking about my volume, and so it snowballs me right into my update that last week I shared with you guys. That just last week on the day of the show, so last Thursday, I found out that I tested positive with COVID-19. And so since then, I've definitely had some ups and downs, some hots and colds, right? All literal. And so I think I shared last week, but if not, the very first like symptom that I ever experienced was before I even knew that I had it was last Tuesday. Where I started with I explained this. So it was with a headache that now obviously the migraine. So I've been experiencing a week-long migraine. And of course, day by day, it's gotten like better. It has times where it's a little worse, where it's better. And so it's the only thing that still lingers really ever since like the last Tuesday. And so like this morning, I woke up with like just pressure behind like my left eye. And so, but I'm more cautious and aware of like my volume. So whereas when I finally spoke to one of my sisters, like, and it made me realize that like we, must get excited on the phone with each other, whether we're talking about something not so good, great, everything in between. And so I realized on the phone that I had to lower my own, volume, like, and I had to lower the volume for her. And she's not like a very loud person, but we're girls. So our, voices echo, whatever. And so I'm aware of like, even when I got a little excited talking to my producer before the show, I got excited about just talking with him and I realized like, oh, I get excited even talking to him. Like I have to calm down because there's like an echo. Like if I get loud enough, there's an echo in my head. It's it's crazy. Like I don't know any other way to put it. And so that is why. So for anyone else, if you felt like I was trying um to put on my sexy voice, which my producer would have ruined it if I was, that is why. So my bad. So I'm bringing it up a little bit more. I hope that it's okay. Y'all let me know. If not, he will. But yeah. So with COVID, here we are, 10 days later, right? So I'm no longer contagious. Thank God, after today, right? According to apparently CDC, apparently to the health department, according to doctors, that is, I was told to quarantine for 10 days from the onset, so the beginning of my symptoms of when I, experienced them, saw them, all that jazz, right? And so, that being said, though, uh, unfortunately, which want to think about it now, like in a better light than I was yesterday. Unfortunately, my daughter yesterday she went for her retest and tested positive, and so definitely calling all prayer warriors. You know how to get a prayer through to heaven. Be sure to mention Sydney Adriana, please and thank you. Um, Thankfully, that she has not, all this time, she has not experienced or displayed any symptoms whatsoever, still to date. Thank God. So even my mother, she was just so confused yesterday. Like, I don't understand. Like I've been, trying to keep myself calm, definitely trying to keep Sydney calm. Sydney has been definitely, she is my soldier. She's definitely bared through so much, so many different things of just our life. Um, with I don't know, did I share this? I think I shared one, but I didn't share. Okay, there we go. Oh Lord, oh, okay. There go my dad. Sorry, I'm looking at the comment from my dad. He's crazy. Hi, Dad. Um, but I support you. That's so cute. I actually like that in real time, like right now. That's so sweet. But yeah, so and then my dad's making a inside joke about all of his grandkids and my nieces and nephews and how he now calls them gremlins. And y'all know in the movie Gremlins, it's like, oh, you don't feed them after midnight. So he's making a joke about that. Anywho, so yeah. So speaking of his grandkids, so with my daughter, she's with them, and I think I said this before, but it's because both my mom and dad have been vaccinated, and so that was the only household that I could think of that I would be comfortable with. Again, who was already in the household, and then for my daughter, because all of this is crazy. Like none of this makes sense, especially to now like actually and physically experience this, firsthand. And now with her having it, so I've gone through my, emotional breakdown, my mental, strain of like my spiritual war cry is like it's activated. If I could like if that makes any sense to you, like I had to, like I said, I was trying to deal with, keeping Sydney calm, keeping myself calm, trying to, just make sense of everything in real time. And then, try to explain enough to my mother, like, mommy, no, she may not have the symptoms. It's okay. And it's like, well, no, you didn't do anything wrong. Okay. So it was a lot. It was a lot that happened yesterday. It was much anticipated. And so I'll get into this later on. Because I actually want to build this up. But it definitely it did something for me, spiritually, mentally, physically, I believe, emotionally, um, for me to realize that it was time to stop wasting time of asking, God to take it off of me, like, to release this from me. Like, how I didn't go to that, how could you? I didn't have time. Like when you deal with dire needs or heavy situations, right? Literally life and death, like it brings you to a place of like, okay, not gonna waste time. Not gonna waste time. I'm like, why me? Oh no, like I don't have time, I have COVID. Okay, like now what do we do now? And now, like yesterday when that came about, again, I had been praying like, okay, Lord, I'm definitely believing and knowing that, Sydney's gonna test negative. But like I said, now that I've said it today, um, it's like duh, almost like a duh moment, right? Almost like a, well, I have it. Like that's why I was grateful that she tested negative when we both went last week, because I had just breathed on her, the night before. Like I had fallen asleep in her bed, with her. She asked, but I was just putting her to bed. I fell asleep. And I woke up in the middle of the night and moved, but still, you know what I mean? Like she was in the household with me, even though she was removed from me as soon as I found out. But still, like logically, it makes sense and it's unfortunate. And so I'm just very prayerful and thankful. Like I said, even though I've always been, thankful for life, every day, like knowing that it's favor, that it's, not something that I give myself every day, but that, this big, huge, large, wonderful, perfect God thinks of me every day to bring me to life, every day, to breathe, life in me while I'm asleep and can't do that for myself. And then, for the dawning of a day to be like, you know what, I'm gonna get her on it. I'm gonna get her on it, right? And so now, especially now, because if I was ever to, like I was talking earlier, like waste my time of asking like why me? Like if I was ever to really ask a why me question, it would really be in the light of, why, wow, like you chose me to bring me to life every day. Like in spite of, I've said this before, we live in Baltimore City. I've definitely thought that plenty of times. Like it literally, someone was killed right outside of my house, like directly out, like literally right outside of my house. And so death, and murder is around us, and has been, especially in Baltimore City, just by, by way of like killings and violence, right? But now we think about, more globally about this, world health crises, this pandemic. Um, Death, unfortunately, really is much closer to home for a lot of us than we think. But yet, for those of us that are still, here, if that don't scream purpose to you, I don't know what, right? And so, with that being said, it brings me to share with you all of like my feelings about, this week and leading up to even like before yesterday. So yesterday, since yesterday, of course, the shift, my mind has been about, my daughter, and just how unfortunate it is, but what to do, how to handle it, how to get through it. Because at least, thankfully and gratefully that I have made it through, thus far with it. It just is what it is, like, and so so like I said, so before yesterday, I had really been fussing in my head because I had come to the conclusion, knowing that I wanted to share with y'all, and especially when it was like heavy on me. So I hate sometimes sometimes I hate that I I'll feel something heavy, I'll feel it, right? And then I process it though, and it's before the show and all that. So early on, I told you before, like usually by the top of a week, I pretty much know or have an idea or have had a conversation or made some note, had a notion, a thought about what I'm going to share for the show for the week, and so or that week. And so sometimes I hate though because I'll feel that emotion like heavy, like cause this and that and right. And then I process it and now I'm like, it's all fizzled out. Then I'm all calm about it. Like, hmm. But but it shows growth, right? Especially when I think about what I'm getting into now is that all week I was fussing in my head about, really the idea around that, people don't know how to support the support. Like I've shared before, I am so much for so many people. And uh this week, if no other time, has really taught me, and I'm jumping around now, but this week has really taught me to there's supposed to be if there's purpose, right? So there is purpose, not if, there is purpose in everything. And so because there is purpose in everything, that means that there's a lesson to get out of everything, right? um and so or there's purpose in everything and a lesson to get out of anything, right? And so with that being said, that I've learned to let go of that notion, right? And I had to work through it though. I couldn't just, again, we talked about before that there's a blessing in like that moment you decide to let go. But there again, everything's a process. So there was a process to get me to a place of even, letting go of that notion, right? And so it's like I had the idea of it. Like I said, I'm so much for so many people, and so I learned to set boundaries, right, and to respect my limitations. That's Benia's big takeaway from all of this. Has nothing to do with my physical health, technically. Well, it's in there, right? It's implied, it's embedded in there somewhere. But you would think that, like, oh, COVID, oh, it taught me that I need to, right? So, yeah. So, while I know that I'll be sure to always have the emergency, vitamin C, like gummies, right? I like those help throughout this time. So, just different things that I tried because my producer and I were talking before the show that they don't give you anything. So, I want to be very clear, nothing was given, not an antibiotic, nothing to try to um, turn this right side up. Like it was just, hey, you have COVID, go home and suffer through it. Okay. All right now. All right. Be blessed. Okay. All right. Go ahead. Right. And so, because it was even worse when I was on the phone with my mom while she was while she took my daughter to urgent care to be retested, and it came in there, and like the doctor, you already could not understand her her accent, and that's just no fault to her. But I mean, it was just so quick of like, oh no, no, I mean, why are you upset? By the time I was still asking a question, and my mother and it were walking out of the door. Like she had my mother sign off, and it was crazy. Like, oh no, this and all that. Um, it was like really wild to me. And so, but either way, so like I said before, even getting to yesterday about my daughter, that all this time, like I've definitely had a lot of moments of feeling alone and lonely. And I've shared with y'all before, like that was like a lifelong struggle of mine. And I'm so grateful at the progress, like right, and the healing level that I'm on, and that I've made it through so many, levels beforehand to get here, that it was never a trigger for me. Like it never, like I appreciate that even at some point my mother had said, like she was just kind of thinking like in third person in a sense. It was just like, yeah, how could she so want me, like, how could she imagine like what she could be going through, like in her mind, and just how sad she could be about like in there on her own and all that. Like it definitely sucked. I remember at some point like, I definitely thirst one of these days in particular for sure because I was too weak to get my water bottle open. And I couldn't get it open. Like it just I couldn't get it. So for a good little while I was getting thirsty. Um, but like it's been a journey because truthfully I felt like there's some people like even like closest to me, like it was just like they just did not know, or I'm sorry, initially it started off with, they did not make me feel like that they had me, like just they just didn't like. And then it grew into, they did not know, I guess, how to best support me. And then while, of course, if you ask me, there are just certain actions I know that I would have made and tried, but then here it is that brings me to my limitations, because then some people just cannot, whether it's their mental ability of thinking of what to do for somebody that usually is the person's there for them that will assert themselves. So me, I'm the cork. I'll plug myself in places where I see people lack, where other people in their lives are lacking, and I'll insert myself there and stretch myself too thin for what? For what? And it doesn't mean that I don't love them. It doesn't mean I don't love them any less. And so I've had to internalize the fact that it doesn't mean that though these people I'm referring to, that it doesn't mean that they love me any less. It's just it's a hard pill to swallow that people will not break their backs. Even like simple text messages. Like there are people I'm sure that like why they chimed into my show last week, and I had not heard from them until I think like yesterday for the first time. Crazy. That's crazy. That was absolutely crazy to me, to be very honest. But I had to get over it. Like I had to. I definitely had to get over it. Um, I understand that people have their lives too. So that was another thing. Like it was a reality for me. Like people are gonna have their lives, and people will do they're gonna do. I've had somebody that asked me and was just so, it seemed so like thrown, right? At hearing like, oh, you're going, oh my goodness, people were asking me what was going on because they heard, someone ask about you and this and the third, and then they told me like, I'm gonna have some things sent to your house. Never, still today, nothing. Ain't even been no knock on the door. Had me sending their sending my address and everything. Like, For what? What's the point? So while I could hark on, feeling, left, just left to die by some people, like left aside, like that people just decided not to do what they really could have done or even promised to do, I had to get over it. I just really had to decide to get over it because I was dealing with too much that was like heavier and meant more, than worrying about that. While I could decide to be better, but I've shared with y'all before that I have a lifelong, story of, the fact that I could choose to be bitter and, upset and angry and this and that at others and with other people, but that ain't the case. Like I just choose not to. So there's a blessing in that. And there's a reward, to reap because of it. I know that for sure. And so again, while it may suck, and it can feel lonely when people don't do what it is that you would think would do for you. And I mean, truthfully, like this includes, and I pride myself on not really, while I'm vulnerable and open and transparent with you guys, I also pride myself on like living what I say and do. So I believe that you share things with people once you have actually like worked them through with the person. So an issue just in our world is that people will, turn to outside, sources to try to clarify something between what should be clarified between, the two parties or whatever parties are involved, right? And so because I want to be, a part of me wants to be so transparent and tell you like, oh, it's this person and that person, but name drop and call out for what, right? If I haven't gotten around to, really clearing that up with those like people. Like, and I honestly, it's really because I think that another thing is like to process it through, like it may get around to the point that it's never even addressed. I don't know. And I know it's coming from me that's like you should address everything and this and that and third, but you learn that some things I don't know. I don't know. I know I couldn't address it like when I was upset about it. One is weak and tired. Like that's been the number one thing. So I had like I said, it's been the as far as like my physical symptoms. So it's been like the week long, headache, migraine. And then so the cold chills have definitely subsided. I haven't had a fever since I talked to y'all last actually. And so I've been checking it and I've adjusted the temp in the house quite a few times. Like it was really because the temperature actually changed. And so I had to figure that out. And so let's see what else. I guess the lightheadedness. Oh, it's definitely been the consistent, like lack of loss of appetite, like still, which low key, to be very honest, pretty grateful for because it's definitely helped me just to, shift my mind around just eating anyway. I had been doing so bad because which TMI, y'all know I'm queen of it. TMI is that child, my cycle came to like when I say so I was weak. That's how I know what day it is. It was Monday. Monday definitely turned out to be, I think, like the worst of my days after I had found out, right? So the beginning, before I found out, was the worst. And then once I found out the worst day was Monday. But I realized that I was thinking afterward, I was thinking like that's like the worst of it, kind of like just getting out, in a sense. And I was like weak. But then I remember making a post on my personal page saying like, that your worst days, or your weakest days can actually turn out to be your strongest days because I don't know. I ain't gonna say that, sorry. I'm so excited to share something with y'all. But so I woke up that day, like, and I was really weak. It was a day I tried to talk to Sydney, and like my mom and her service in there, so trying to like video call, it just didn't work out. So I was kind of glad it didn't. That probably would have upset her. It's like I said, back to shout out to her for being a soldier, excuse me, for so many other things, we've dealt with in life. But for this in particular, this has been really, really hard for her. For the both of us, but definitely like for her, like she doesn't understand any of it. And explain things. She's smart, but she's still a child. She's 4 and has been away from her mother for the longest, and she's been like I guess forcibly, like 'cause I don't want to say unbeknownst to her, she's been away from me and has known it But it's been like she's been away from me for fun. She's been at Gigi's house and things like that. And but to be away from me for so long and not understand what's going on and to know that I'm upset that I'm not feeling well. Like it just and she's a feeler just like I am. So she definitely and yesterday was just definitely a toll on all of us emotionally because she was like really upset because all she's still waiting for is like when can I go home? Like, grandma's has been cool. Pop's been, he's been chill, but when can I go home? My mother told me that, she sits and would sit at the window, and saying that she's waiting for me to show up, like waiting to see my car. She didn't want to leave out one of the days that my mom was really trying to get them outside. She didn't want to leave out because she said she didn't want to miss me. Like, we'll talk and she'll like, Mom, I don't see your car outside. Like, so thank God, like she's coming home tomorrow just because again, I won't be contagious anymore. But then it's also trying to figure out, how to deal with everything. Like with her, like none of that makes sense either. Like, but I know she definitely would not last another 10 days without me. I'd rather keep eyes on her anyway. I really was thinking yesterday, but it was just all weird because again, that doctor was really no help at all. Of like the one thing I was able to get out of what she said was like, well, it's not like she can infect you again. If I get that, because that's always been a question of mine, even before all of this, of like if someone can get it more than once. You know what I mean? Like, say if so what you know is that once you have it, it is in your system, in your body for at least 60 days. Right. And so I couldn't even get the vaccine. I can't, not couldn't, I can't get the vaccine until like 3 months from now. And so it's just like it's all a whirlwind. So there are very few, certainties and so many of like a slew of uncertainties about all of this. And so while I have all of that to juggle, also consider the fact that I have, recently resigned from work and, left out on faith. And so I'm definitely faith in it right now. And so just knowing like logically that will probably affect some things. So I've put some things into perspective, I've shifted some things, trying to just make sense of everything all at once, all while not feeling well. That even just did something to my head now, just saying all of that. But it's still not taking a toll on me because I've chosen not for it to take a toll on me, right? And so when and it's I'm gonna tell y'all what's funny about these notes, and it probably toward the end of it. But the shift in your mind that you have to have, it's literally only what am I saying? Hold on. The shift in your mind that you have to have is they literally only do according to their best. There we go. So that was for people. So it was back to like not worrying about, just what it is. And I feel like people could have done, more, could have done better. Like, cause why am I gonna lie around and be so critical of others? Like when I have to worry about me and my little, like why no. I don't, I literally don't have the time. Um, and you know what, truthfully, their best that they're giving you, and remember, it doesn't even mean that people will give you their best either, right? Either way, it's heavily influenced by what you allow, right? Benia has allowed for people not to give them their best knowingly, knowingly, because I wouldn't hark on that. I wouldn't even process that. Of all the thoughts that I would have, I wouldn't process the fact that, this person that's in my life is not giving me their best, or this is their best. And catch this, that their best is not good enough for me. That is okay. That is a healthy thought to have, right? I learned that, people, in this time, if they reached out to me, and then found out, what I was dealing with. And then of course, they would ask, let me know if you need anything, or what is it that you need? Benia before illness didn't know how to answer that question, right? I've always been the person that you just have to do for me, right? And come and find out, right? So maybe not inside, but I love that one person who asked, like, you need your trash taken out or something like that. Like, but I get that and I appreciate that. But in the midst of really just trying not to be as weak as I was most days, um, and it was like different parts of a day, right? So I still never counted a day to be like, oh, it's my worst day, worst day. It's like I was talking about Monday that, started off really weak and all that, but then I had the energy and I definitely still use this time. I finished reading my book, y'all. It's lit. I'm so excited about it. And already working through because I had already really started on the second one. So there's a sequel to it too. So like I'm in editing mode of the first one while my children's book, like I already told y'all, is with the formatter. But here it is, my part one of my memoir and autobio is, it's in edit mode. And then that's helping me to draft like the sequel of it, so part two. So it's an amazing feeling, and there was a blessing in when I decided to just press through and just to keep. I shared that with y'all last week, and so even here's something that just came to me. Thank you, Lord. Even when things still don't turn out the way that you thought they ought to be, right? So last week I thought I wasn't. I definitely didn't think I was going to find out that COVID. I'm thinking I didn't feel well. Ooh, things are bad. I'm getting checked out anyway. I'm supposed to preach Sunday. I'm going, press through and finish these notes and all that. My body physically felt better as I was finishing up my notes and all that. And yet I still found I had COVID. So I still stopped the show, right? Paused it for a minute. For whatever reason. Who knows, right? Who knew? Who knows? I may never find out, and that's okay too. Because then that's when I chuck it up to the fact that just some things I'm just not going to know, and that's okay. Even though I constantly seek, God's wisdom, right? And so, you just in gaining and always gaining knowledge, whether I like it or not, right? And so it's applying that wisdom. And applying that wisdom sometimes means that you talk yourself off the ledge of like, oh, this person didn't do this. Oh, this didn't happen. Like, oh, I felt lonely here. Oh, I felt, unheard here. So, right. So I'm really talking to my audience today, y'all. Like I always open up and say this show is for the unseen, the unheard, the overlooked, the forgotten, whether it be the forgotten part of you or for the person that doesn't belong anywhere. And the reason why I include whether it be the forgotten part of you, because that's you um, taking part in the list of people that comes along with those titles and feelings, those tags of being unseen and unheard. Sometimes you're being unseen and unheard from yourself. All right, I'm saying. I'm just saying, because, and it could be, that it has some influence, something to do with other people. But if you decide to hark on, what's from them, what is or is not from them, then you're doing a disservice to yourself because now you're worried about somebody else rather than worried about you more. So it's mind over matter, right? So instead of me even worrying about, our best friend or somebody really close from church or this or that, that I didn't feel like, really showed up, a sister or this or that, like literally so much throughout this week, people have, a friend or whatever you want to call it, like just even has talked about like his ideals or whatever he thinks about, like since he's on house arrest and when he was locked up and this and that, right? Because it was just it was a conversation that just passed the time at some point. Because first I really was talking to anyone, and so then it was like, okay, I ain't gonna shut myself in here like too much. I guess whatever. I will appreciate it. Somebody's reaching out, right? And so it was like just that people can find themselves talking about their stuff, even in the midst of like, I don't want to hear this. Like, I don't. There was one conversation. It was one of my sisters when I talked to her. She just come back from traveling, and I wanted to hear all about our trip, and I told her just tell me. But um, there was just like things and like feeling like that people can't, at least with one person, well, that same sister, like I know she's been very clear, like so she's not the person, she's not like me, like as far as like I know how to, I have this innate ability to just be there, for people. But over the years, I've learned to really kind of take a page from her book of like, no, I can't always, be that for everybody. And it is like it's a tug of war, like almost every day for somebody like me. Especially now, and I know it's gonna be because I have now learned to set boundaries and to respect my own limitations. Like if I don't feel like it, I don't feel like it. If I don't want to, I don't want to. And then as long as I check that against my God to know, like, okay, God, am I going against an assignment, from you? Because that's the thing too. We'll take on these assignments that then really turn out to be projects because they weren't assigned to us in the first place. I've definitely learned that. And so, I had to let go of like, dang, like, how is it that I can be surrounded by people that just don't know just how to just love on you, just unconditionally, like, but I guess they do it to their extent, but then that makes it conditioned. I only know how to love unconditionally, but I have to and be selective, you know, of it. It is my daughter that deserves my unconditional love. And then at some point it'll have to be with conditions because I won't be able to allow, everything, every little thing, get away in the center third. And it's not really some point is now, to be able to raise her up in a way that, she understands and respects discipline, respects authority, but also, as we are millennial parents, so our double challenge is those things, those foundational tools that we learned in a hard way, but to pack those on with the concept of, being, having a safe haven, being, open-minded and open, hearted to receive criticism, but also I don't know, to offer constructive criticism, but to be able to express, self and all of that. Like it's all of these things that we're doing in parenting in the 21st century right now. Like it's a lot. And so that's why it's so much about, working on self. That's why I keep reminding us all, right? So telling, sharing with you all, like why I talk so much about working on self, because it everything boils right down to that, everything, to be able to take, instruction and to take criticism, right? Even when it's not intended so well, to accept, that people will not always, come through for you, the way that you need, the way that you would think, even the bare minimum of what you would think that they would do. I'll be honest, I was very hurt, at least by one. Like one best friend is just like, okay, like nothing, nothing. Like it's just crazy to me. It was one sister that I had to just really internalize, like just where she is, like just in her place, right? Um, of like that I don't know how to answer you and tell you and all that, because I had to realize it was not, here it is, this is the tip of the week, it is not your responsibility to show up for people on when they ask you, how they can be of service to you. It's not your responsibility. It's for people to love you so much and to have, over the years, however many years and decades and all that, that they've gotten to know you, to actually do that and to have understood, and then to learn the different facets of you. And so only the people that care enough about you to understand that your different versions of yourself, to stick around and to accommodate and to adapt, rather, to these new, ways of yourself. Hopefully it's for the better, right? So it shouldn't be a huge ask to ask someone that says that they love you and care about you to adapt to the new and better version of yourself that you continue to evolve into, right? And so it's not your responsibility. I actually just shout out to Toby Ngwe, 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 Toby, okay, that I'm still learning the concept of, like he was talking about in this video that I actually just watched on IG, that it's like he was sitting around with a group of people and they were really going in about, it was something about, he said he knew he was really free when he like stopped, basically like stopped feeling like he had to explain himself. Like he was like, everything that he is just true to who he is, where he comes from. Like just, he was like, if you don't speak Ebonics, okay. Like if you don't speak I keep wanting to give another I can't think of what African tongue that he said that he, like, spoke to, right? Because I keep wanting to say Yoruba, that's not it. But dang it is like on the tip of my tongue and it's not there. But he was like, okay, and if you don't get to know it in order to be able to understand me, then okay. And that literally, that comes down, say I'm on a smaller scale, but he's like really taking it, and knows and gets the bigger picture of that. I'm still on the smaller scale because it was hard for me, even like as I was watching it, to take to that. So I'm like, but, and there was one person, it was like in that group that I was speaking to, and she was saying she used to teach, and so basically she taught like around a lot of white people, a lot of white children. And so she said she used to put on something, I think a wig or something, just did something totally different with her hair. And she said then after a while she was like, she would not. And she was like, even a white person that she loves, like that she worked with, asked her, it was like a school banquet. And they asked her like, oh, what are you doing with your hair for the banquet? She was like, still to this day, that person, that white person, she could really call and let them know that she needs them and they would come through for them. Through for her. So she understands that person really loves her, but still just does not get it. And so it's not for us to, while I've been in lighter conversations, shout out to my best friend Josh, who has definitely talked about this and has said this, that it's not for us. We get tired, and it's not for us really to explain ourselves. Um, and definitely not for us to water ourselves down. That's really what Toby's point was, to water ourselves, or to shift, or kind of just give it to you a little different, or even to code switch. That's why it was really a tough pill to swallow, because I'm a proud code switcher. Woo, learning that once you get to a place of like, oh, I'm really good at this, guess what, there's still more for you to learn and adapt and change about that, and to in order to improve. Right, improvements are like eternal. Mm, that's really a B tip of the week. Improvements are eternal. There's always something you can do to be better. So improvements are eternal. You heard it here first. Um, and so, but like I was saying, shout out to my best friend Josh, that he has said that, like, we get so tired that I don't want to have to explain myself to get you to understand it. You either go and try to read, and I get it, but see, my thing is where I struggle with that is because, well, how else are they supposed to learn? But then it's like, how, like, if you do a good job of something, then they keep asking more of you. So if I'm doing a good job of explaining, hey, blackness is this, black is that, black is this, we need this is black, then that is tiresome, and that's doing more damage to me, and they don't understand that, right? So it's the same way of, like, when you feel unheard, unseen, forgotten, um, overlooked, and all these other things, that it may not necessarily be, your place or your obligation to get them to understand that. That's why I said it may go unaddressed. I don't know, directly, at least, because sometimes they may not get it that way, but somehow it comes around. And there was, oh my God, it definitely slipped my mind. It was another point to add on to the point piece of that. Hopefully that comes back to me. Excuse me, but there's work for you to do again. So that goes back to, like I said, everything goes down to working on self, so that way you won't even be worried about your mind. Your thoughts won't be entangled with the idea of that people have not done for you, and they did not give you enough here and did not do enough there, because then that's how you really take that and go and bleed on other people that have nothing to do with it. That's how you turn into being, because just the same concept that I just read of, like, people that are easily angered are easily controlled, right? So I feel like if you water down a little bit, if you're easily triggered, you know you're easily triggered, actually. So if you're triggered by something, and then you're triggered to let loose your cannon on other people, that some people will be that that friend that was hurt, and then you'll turn and be the hurting or hurtful friend to someone else. No, that's just not how it's supposed to go. Stop it in its tracks. Stop it right there. That's how negativity and horribleness, is passed on, because okay, I was hurt. Hurt people hurt people. Got it. So heal. And unfortunately, we don't hear that healed people heal people. That should be the new hashtag. That should be the new thing, the new norm. If we want to talk about step into new norms, can we talk about that? That's greatness. Come on, check the shirt out. Boom. Like, shout out to 316 collection. Definitely, definitely, definitely high on my list. Okay. 316 collection, just from packaging alone, but like pieces. There is this raincoat, y'all, that I impressed over. I pray that I never mess it up. So I don't think I'm ever letting go of it. You understand me? It's slicker than slick. You understand? Um, but yeah, like, how about heal people, heal people, right? Look how, just even in my own way of my conditioned mind, that there's a small slight, I mean a very slight thought, though. It was just like, oh, that sounds sweet. Like, so what? And why does it? That's the real question. But hurt people. That's just something you say it and it's strong. That's it. And it shouldn't be. That is a statement that should be weakened. You know, let's do the work in order to weaken it. Let's do the work on self, so much so that, we don't, find ourselves so wrapped up in what people haven't done for us, what people, where people have failed us. People will continue to fail you. There is definitely a blessing in being delivered from people. That is now what I understand that Toby was talking about, because I understand that, and I understand that, like, for certain people in my life, that is, a part of my prayer for them, right? Like for God to help to deliver them from, people and just what they think of, what people think, and they're great people and all that, but will be stuck on or won't, move this way because they know that some people are going to feel like, oh, that disgusts me. So I guess I'm on my way of being delivered from what people think anyway, because I know that there was an unlocking of that for me and for myself. Um, but there, I still have ways to go. But there are other people that I know for sure that definitely have a lot of ways to go. But I pray for them to be delivered from people, just because, like, and that goes good and bad of just I'm not doing anything, really for, um, accolades. Like, so if I'm not doing anything for the accolades of man, I literally am really living my life to be sure that God tells me that I did something right. Like, and if anything, for real, I really can't even go small because it's go big or go home. I'm really living my life so that way God tells me that I did everything right, which, yeah, it's not everything. I get it. But that's what I'm trying. I'm trying to do just that, right? I am trying to do that. I am trying to spread as much positivity and to offer, a newfound positive perspective, just throughout the world if I can. Like, because I have to, because we need it. And so if nobody else is going to do it, why not? Even if these videos never make it to as many people as I would love for them to, then I pray that it makes it to the people that need it most. So that way, like I was saying earlier, it invokes and provokes a new way of thinking. That was my bishop. Get rid of that stinking thinking. Like, get rid of it. Let it go. Let it go. And that's because, like, you realize, oh wow, look at that. Look at some of the stuff that I've said. So furthermore, you have to realize that it's best not to hark on what wasn't done for you and how it made you feel inadequate, but gracious and grateful for what was done for you. That's it. That's being the bigger person for real. Be able to say, like, you know what? At least they did this. At least this was happening. Like, at least I finally got a text message. At least, this, at least that, and it just helps to just, and you rehearse it, right? So that's part of the, I guess, faking it till you make it, like, you can rehearse it. But it also makes you aware too, because it's not, I don't necessarily plan it. My issue in the past had been like, people hurt me. Like, oh, done. Like, best from where? What? Out of here. Done with them. Off with their heads. Like, no, no, no. I can't treat people like that. I can't treat people, keep treating people so disposable. Like, who am I? Who am I? Life passed through me, but I did not create life. That's the same reason why I can't take life, right? And so to treat people like they just, oh man, you didn't do this for me is one thing, absolutely not, right? And then it takes, especially when you want to try to, like, in those moments where you're like, oh yeah, they didn't do enough for me here, and I gotta say at least they did this. And then if your thoughts come in of like the other things that they've done for you, right? And then if you try to dismiss that, you ever had that? Like, it was those other, no, I ain't about to think of those other times. No, they didn't do this right now. No, it's too much. You're wasting your brain time. Like, you're wasting your anytime minutes in your brain. Like, cut it out. And so you gotta let it go. You gotta let go of those moments and feelings and times where, it's like, I feel unheard. Okay, process that. So that way you get to a place where you can let it go. Right? And I'm gonna stop saying let it go because I really like the word release right now. Really, really, really like the word release. Release it. So that way your hands are not heavily weighed by stuff that you should have released. So that way you now have free hands to receive blessings. Right? It's the same thing when they say, let old things go, relationships, jobs, cars, house, everything. Right? And yes, I'm talking about materialistic things. And then even talking about, like what people have done for you and all of that. And whereas it doesn't really mean only, what people do for you and all that. And that's what speaks to, who they are to you and all that. Unfortunately, that is how we understand things. So I get that. But that's another way of being able to dismiss those ways of like, they didn't do this for me. Then like, it really helps me. If anything, the way you get to like, I don't know, I think everything comes to like, where you can have that thought in the back of your mind, like, ha ha ha, right? So that ha 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 moment for the person that's, unheard and unseen and overlooked and forgotten and all, right, is really for like, well, that's why I get to, worry about myself more. It sounds lame, doesn't it? Just because of the way we're conditioned, but for real, that's the ultimate revenge, like revenge. And I mean, even if you feel like you want revenge on your best friend or your sister or your brother or your kinfolk or somebody, let it be that it's like you don't really want them hurt or harmed, but it's like, oh, this revenge, if the way I have to see it as a human being, that sometimes, unfortunately, that's like our natural feeling. Like, oh, this something has to happen to them because this, right? If that, for the people that you love, you don't want anything hurt that, to actually hurt them. So it's like, you know what? What's the best revenge? Let me worry about me. So I'm not going to be, I'm not even going to, I know now moving forward that I'm not even going to feel bad, at some things that if I can't make or do, for people, and it doesn't mean I'm going to go out my way not to, but if I can, if that's just how it happens and I am busy and, when I'm married and got, more kids and this and that, but even now just with my daughter and it's going to be just us and just chilling and, figuring out life together. And navigating, through the life's uncertainties and finding the certainties in Christ, like I'm not gonna feel bad at what I can't make and what I can't do. Like, and it doesn't mean you have to then be like, well, remember when I was sick, remember I had COVID and you didn't even text me and you said you were gonna send stuff and you didn't, and or you took 2 days to drop this off, or I didn't even hear from you because you don't know how to just, love on me. Like, okay, all right, got it. So let me find who does. Like, okay, or let me be who does, really. That's the biggest piece of it, right? Like it's just not no. Um, and so what I realized is that as long as something seems to be missing, um, like say they didn't do, this and that, while I was at my worst, some reward is coming to make up for it. And I said before, like I'm like touching on my notes before I even get some. Um, besides, at least in my story, that's really always how God is always testing you. Always, if nothing else, is always the test from Him for me about my dependency, depending on solely Him. Like He does not want me to depend on anybody else for anything. And I know it's because He knows my loyalty. He knows that I, in the past have been loyal to a fault. And so I'll feel like if you, do this for me and have done this for me and have shown me this, then, oh my gosh, like I am so loyal to you, right? And so think about how the different arms that has stretched out into in ways that didn't work out in my favor, to, friendships that I should have let go of. Whereas then it turned out to be the end of them, was really the realization I talked about before, that was the betrayal of myself, expecting people to do more for me and to be more to me, than they probably, wanted to be, than they probably could be, or what have you, right? And so, it was just me being loyal because they were nice and good to me at this particular time, like, and not recognizing the seasons. Seasons change, right? Change is eternal. That's why improvements are eternal, right? Um, they're also internal. Change should be internal as well, right? Because everything outside of you is changing always, but inside of you should definitely be changing as well, and changing for the better. Let's be very clear about that, right? Um, and so, what did I just say? Oh, right. It was the reward part. I wanted to go back to that because I know I was talking about dependency, but it was like, the reward. And so the reward is that literally, and I'm learning like it's not just for the old people in church. Like we're growing up and you learn and hear like, if I only got God and that's all I need, you're like, okay, yeah, that's for the motherboard. That's, for the deacons. All right. Okay. We'll read that in the Deacon Digest, but what about me? Like, what's going on? But no, it's really for everybody, just like God is for everybody. All souls belong to Him. He created all things, right? Not just people, not just animals, but all things. And so, if I literally only depend on Him for my happiness, for my, covering, for my protection, for, providing for me and all that, I literally have all that I need. And so the issue is when you lose sight of what it is, that He is coming through, to do in your life. right? So then if you realize, oh, you blessed you with something, now you depended on this job for, the money that you need to take care of these bills. Wow, logically that would make sense. Like, yeah, of course, duh. No, no, pimp. I'm gonna tell you right now, don't do that. Don't do that. And so, you once you depend on him, you realize that he will bring, he will really, first of all, provide for you, the way he sees fit for you, that is best for you. So then it's humbling yourself. So with something, and it's so crazy because I'm like literally repeating some of the things that have like excited me even writing today. Um, that I mentioned in my second book, I mentioned that with, the dose of independence, should come a double helping of humility, right? So to maintain, a humble spirit, that like is literally, that's in Bible, right? But that's just something you ought to do and should do is be humble, because when you mess up, as soon as you get to feeling like you self-made and done everything yourself, that's where you start losing out. You start losing things, and then the issue, you want to know what's worse than losing something, is losing something and not knowing that you're losing it. Right. So imagine these movies and shows or something about like people talking about like, that you don't really see it. Like when it's happening in real life, you don't really get a chance to see it. You might hear it, Trump. So. But when you think about like people like embezzling money, right? So you think if you own this, Fortune 500 company, and somebody is stealing money, right from you, and you don't see, you don't know, because you are not the one that checks your books, or you may overhear it, from your treasury department or whatever, your finance department rather. Um, and but just you don't know it. So it's still something that clicks. Like bro, at some point I would just sleep and just chilling and just doing what I, normally do and just being happy, and people will steal it from me. That's wild. Like it's crazy. So to lose out on things and you don't know it. So then that goes along with, when you're not remaining humble, that, you'll lose out on things and your life is starting to unravel, this life that's been built up. And you realize, like, oh, wait a minute. Wow, I was losing this before I even realized that I was. Like this was starting to go, south before I even knew. And so to me, I feel like that's worse than, losing out on something, is like not knowing that you're even losing out in the first place. That is like, wow. And so the reward that comes, from totally depending on God is to be, in the know. And so then to have that easy access to him, to, ask for, Lord, is something I'm missing right now? We good? Like, I just want, hey, checking in. Like, I'm just straight. Okay. Am I right where I need to be? Or do I need to shift? I need to change. And so, like it's so wild to me that, as things change, like I said, as seasons change, that we are to adapt to those, and change along with that, with those changes that come along, that it's just it's just wild to me. Like change is so wild, because once you get settled, and so it makes you think to the logical mind and to the carnal mind. It makes you think like, dang, so I never get settled. But you're totally not really anyway. Like you are to, walk amongst this land, right? Be in the world but not of the world, right? So it technically, yeah, like, so why, again, for my people that I say that feel like you do not belong anywhere, welcome. It's okay. We're right here together. I definitely never feel like I belong anywhere that I find myself, and I mean it, ever. There's always something that makes me feel like, woo, child, I don't belong up in here. And that's okay, even if it's, something good, but it's just like, this may not work for me, but I, have to work it, right? And so I have this wild analogy that I'll come up with, because like I was talking about, that one of the symptoms of COVID has been, that I haven't had an appetite. Y'all, when I say I'm embracing it, I'm just saying, not that I'm, always stopping myself on purpose, anything, but I literally do not have an appetite. And so I did celebrate, it was just one night yesterday, 2 days ago, I was able to get soup in. It was for the first time, like since last Tuesday. So I got soup in. It's not that I've had an upset stomach. Literally, I just have not even had the urge to even want to eat, first of all. Like I said, like looking back on it, it was just like, well, right beforehand, I was eating crazy. Now I understand it was, those hungry glutton weeks that lead up to, when my cycle comes. But still, like, it's just crazy. I was eating heavy, going right to bed. It's crazy. Had blown back up again. Y'all see me. I even go and looked at last week, and the biggest difference of last week is not just that I have on the bro this week, like, because I definitely gave y'all loose last week. Sorry about that. Not sorry. So, um, like I've long story short, I've lost some weight, right? I've definitely lost. I'm like down like 10, 12 pounds, seriously. And so, it's helped though to shift my mind and thinking like now it's really been about just eating as much that I, needed. So how's the phrase go of like, instead of living to eat, you eat to live, I think, or I might have said it back. Which clearly shows that I've never lived by it the right way that you're supposed to say it anyway. Um, but it's helped to shift my mind in that way now, right? To even consider like, bro, I don't have just because I have all this in here. My deep freezer is definitely has a good amount. We have a good amount of snacks and food in every cupboard and all that I could possibly think of. Thank God, right? That don't mean I gotta run through it now. Like what the world? First of all, let's consider longevity, Benia. Like what are we doing? Even with snacks, with things that you really don't need and really don't want, right? But you tell yourself that you want. And so, like, whereas I think I'm, considering like just the smoothie life for a little bit, maybe even considering, veganism, I guess, just because I've really been off of meat. There was the one day that I celebrated that I actually eat like 3 meals. I had a banana for breakfast. That's when I had the soup for lunch. And then for dinner, I was like, oh, I might be able to get in. I love chicken sausage, right? Get into my analogy. And so love chicken sausage. And so like I made just one chicken sausage. This was like the Italian style chicken sausage. So it's like, oh, I love it. Usually. And so chow, I made that sausage and could not get it, like could not eat it. Again, it didn't make me ill, didn't make me sick. I took a couple bites and was just looking at it. And so first I just set it down. Then I told myself, like, throw it away. Like, you don't want this. Like, you really don't want it. So I hate being wasteful about what I do, but that just comes from, places poverty, grown up, honestly. Um, and so I had to realize, like, okay, but you thought that, because first I just couldn't understand, like, why don't I want this chicken sausage? Chicken sausage. I don't understand. Like, come on. And so it was because it was with the concept of, it's substitute for regular sausage that I had been, substituted and, for regular sausage, eating chicken sausage. But then even telling myself, like, I don't even need that. Like, just because you're substituting, okay, what's worse for you for something better doesn't mean that it's the very best for you. Right. Because, of course, there are all these, talks and findings of just meat in general that's bad for us. So I really might be considering, I know it's a veganism, but really might consider like pescatarian diet or something for a little while, just because especially it's perfect time of this with the weather beginning to break, that you're not really going to want like hot heavy foods anyway. And then if I do really feel like I need meat, because there are points in time where I feel like I just want to choose something heavy, right? Heavier than, vegetable that can easily like dissolve in your mouth or this or that, even, not a crunch, with a raw vegetable, but I want, this, like whatever, like I want, chewed, the chewy bite, right? That, then I'll do like, like seafood, which I love, right? And then of course I know there are findings and all that about that too. So I always kind of stick, to at least what they told. So y'all, I hope nobody out here is eating tilapia. Just want to put that out there. Been stepped a lot, y'all. But y'all know I love my salmon, and I'm praying for God. They'll never tell me I can't have no salmon. Salmon is scrimps and scallops, okay, and lobster. Okay, it's seafood. It's all seafood. But it's it's what's best, right? And so, all that being said, that the reward in depending on God to provide everything for me is that I was able to put all these things into perspective. Wow, truthfully, I'm battling, a deadly virus. Like, again, what I was talking about in the beginning, which was like, things that I've, been able to put into perspective that don't really necessarily have anything to do with like, oh, I'm sick. Oh, I'm coughing here. I'm coughing. Like, no, like it was this time. And so this time that, remember I said, while I took the month of April, even from work, like just with the PTO initially before, I resigned was, to work, to write and to work out. I haven't done much of the workout. I did, some. And then it had to be because it was going to, of course, while I was sick, my trainer reaches out and everything. It's crazy. But you know, so I played a little bit in April, right? Played a lot more. I'm not gonna say a little bit, played a lot more than I should have because I was getting some writing and I wasn't really getting it done. And so I was finding myself distracted and all that. And in this time, I've been able to actually finish my book and really get serious about, I'm excited about because it's the first part is really about just a lot of BS, a lot of not BS, but a lot of stuff, right? It was just everything was really sent to kill me. Everything was sent to destroy me. And so the second half, second part is really to talk about the good in it because it's what I'm always preaching and talking about anyways, find a positive out of anything. Y'all, listen, it's now I just finished a part that I know is gonna be a little controversial, but it is what it is. And I'm willing to back up, any argument that I make or, anything that I mention in the book because they are actually my thoughts and they're coming from a place, for a reason. And so it's really just about, again, provoking a positive perspective, right? That is definitely a part of my mission, and I think it's part of my purpose. What I'm here to do is to help people just to see, the lighter side of things because there is light in everything somehow, some way. Yes, I even touch on slavery in there. Talk about controversy. Just saying, just saying. I only touch on it a little bit, and give a little another way to think about it. A spiritual, tip. Now, never saying that I agree with it or anything. I'm just a person that I am not somebody that changed it. I'm not somebody that did it. I'm not somebody that changed it. I'm not somebody that was back there when it was like in full effect. When it was still here, but when it was in full effect, then now that I'm here, after all of that time, it's my responsibility to take a different route, or to pick up the baton, from where it was left. And the only way to actually, go forward is not to, like I was talking about before, is to be so down and heavily bound with, all the negativity of it. So it's like, okay, how can I see a lighter side of it in order for me to, because when you feel lighter, when you think lighter, you'll that was good to me. When you think lighter, you'll walk heavier. That's from the B mix, baby. You're welcome. That's good. That's good to me. I don't know about y'all. That's good to me, right? Um, and so, like I said, that I have, out of all of this, I have learned to set my boundaries and to respect my limitations. Right now, I am faithing it to the extreme. Okay? Faithing it, faithing it. Excuse me. That, so much so that the devil, oh, the devil, he done messed up. It's one of those, what's my movie? He done messed up, right? Like, he done messed up, baby, because I realized that even with, COVID for myself and now, my daughter testing positive yesterday, that, I had to, like I said, I had to process through because it was figuring out, what's best to do. Where, does she come home immediately, yesterday? Do I wait out still my 10 days, like, tomorrow? So we've, decided that tomorrow is the day. That was supposed to be the day anyway. I think beforehand it really would have been like some more days. They would have probably like kept her until at least like Saturday or something. But definitely she comes home tomorrow. And so it's like it's crazy to finally get to this point, to get to the show, to get to now like inching toward the end of the show, to know that the end of the night is coming, for the next day to dawn, like just prayerful, that we even get to see the next day, and dealing with that. And so just yesterday, heavy with those feelings and not knowing how to express them. There was a friend of mine that called, and it was the first time that I mentioned it or, said it out loud to anyone that she had tested positive, after, being on the phone with my mom and Sydney being at the doctor's, that, I teared up, right? Definitely got a little watery eyed. And so thank God, like, is This attention to be elsewhere. Just people have so much on their mind. It's crazy. Like I can really handle when I have a lot on my mind and still be like present for people. And other people do not have that ability. It is so crazy to me. But anyway, so and we want to get off the phone. And so then I was just, finally able to just be, with myself. Because of course I never wanted to get off the phone with my mom and my daughter just until we finally did. So it was just, it was finally like just to myself with my thoughts and all. And had finally, I guess, started to release them. Word release, there we go. And so, uh, thank God that my first lady, she sent me a link to watch this service. Um, Shout out to Pastor John Russell. And he talked about shifting the atmosphere. And so I really wanted to make sure that I share it with y'all, just the idea of shifting the atmosphere. And he said that a lot of us, which is crazy because initially watching it, I almost didn't want to feel like it pertained to me because I was like, well, no, I have a different perspective and all that. So that's why you have to be mindful and be careful of when you get so wrapped up in the I'm so unseen, I'm unheard, I'm forgotten. Like then you feel like, oh no, that don't pertain to me because that's for the people that's doing this to me. Like, no, no, you right there, you. Yeah, it pertains to you too. And so when he talked about that, we'll ask God to help us get out of things and to take things off of us and to, take us out instead of rather shift the atmosphere and invite God in. So there are a lot of different scenarios in the Bible where they talk about, that people were in the heat of things and then, they found God in that, well, in the midst of, right? So through Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, God got in the fiery furnace with them. That even the king Nebuchadnezzar, he said, like, it looked like Jesus up in there. Like, what in the world? Like, I know Jesus ain't in that furnace. I know he lying. He not in there. And so, like in the lion's den, Jesus was in there with them in the belly of the whale. Jesus was in there with them. Like, just other scenarios like where, Jesus will get right there with you. You have to believe. I believe that's what's helping me through all of this. I'm telling y'all right now, I really, yet again, here I am in something else where I could not imagine, what I would be doing, how I would be getting through and getting by if I did not believe in Christ as heavily as I do. Right? If nothing else, if you will have to think of it logically and rationally, it's like it really helps your brain because your brain, all right, it's human brain. We can't help just how it operates. It has to think on something, right? That's what it's meant to do. So, like if you are dealing with something good and bad, heavy, indifferent, whatever the case may be, that it, literally thinking on Jesus helps you just to, not, to bear through. Like, you know what? I ain't even about to worry about this over here. I'm gonna think about Jesus. I'm gonna think about how, he did this. I'm gonna think about what he probably thought about when he was, in man form and was, on earth. Like, and then how it was back then. Like just how we compare to now. Like just things. Like, it really, helps to encourage yourself in the Lord, but also like to set your thoughts on him. Like just different things in different ways. It doesn't mean you're doing everything perfectly. I can tell you that. I'll tell you right now, I didn't truly start to get blessed in my life until I started letting go of like where I used to be so afraid to do anything and to mess up. Like, I believed in God so heavy. I really had the fear of God, right? Really, really, really had it. And so that wasn't where I was like mostly blessed, truth be told. Where I really started to receive, my blessing. That was when I was young too. So, I guess it kind of chucked that up. But where I really started to receive my blessings is when I started messing up. I started blessing up when I started messing up. Okay, that's y'all getting some good stuff today. Do you hear me? Like I'm just saying, like it really, happened because of when I started taking risks or something, right? And so then in order to mess up so that we have to learn from it, and that gave God content to be able to work with, right? For him to be able to create me anew, to use my life as an example to, I know that in everything, because it's everything that I'm doing is something new. It's something new if it's to my family, it's something new for me. It's something that I've never seen before. right? And so God is using me as an example. My marriage is going to be an example for the kingdom. I pray to God that because it's been on, delay, that it's like a good example, like it's set great, and like we don't go through all these like horrific problems that you hear about and see. That's my prayer. But even if we are challenged with things, I'm just grateful that I have such a good foundation, and I know that God would not. Is no way He would equally yoke me with that of somebody that does not have such a strong foundation as well, if not stronger. You know what I mean? Like we wouldn't be equally yoked if that was the case. And so I'm so grateful, like, to truly like depend on Him. And so it's so, when it is so heavy, because yesterday got so heavy that, it invoked like a lot of just praise was provoked, while I was watching that service, that conference of From Wounded to Worship Ministries. And it was just like I was in here, and I walked the floors, paced the floors, I, yelled out to God, I prayed something real good and strong just over myself, over Sydney, over all of our things, our stuff, past, present, and future. For those of us, for those of our family that's ill right now, just praying. Just did something good up in here. You hear me? Like my war cry was definitely renewed yesterday. You know what I mean? Like um I'm aware that my tongue is a war cry, right? It's the war cry that you would hear like in Africa. I believe it's in like Middle Eastern as well. It's usually about women. And so I used to not hate. Yeah, I never hated it, I don't think, but I used to dislike that I didn't have like that. Watch this. Be careful again when I say that you get caught and stuck in the unseen, unheard, like, oh, woe is me, right? And mind you, I relate. So I'm not just picking fun, right? Um, but I'm really like, if you got to pull out, the inconsistencies of you, just how you feel. And so I hated that I didn't have a regular, not regular, but the average, tongue that you would hear, that's more familiar. I guess that's why I didn't have a familiar tongue. And so I hated that I didn't have something familiar when I'm made unique, and I'm made to make this war cry. So it's either in war cry or it's in celebration of victory. Come on now, like, thank God for just depending on Him that I'm able to come to that, that realization of what it is that I have within me, and just so that way I can begin to really learn, the purpose of what it is that I have within me. Like, there's greatness in me, there's greatness in you. I need you to find it. You got to let go, you got to release what it is that people have done to you, what it is that people have not done for you. Release it, let it go. Okay? You got it? I want you to get it. I got to make sure that you have it. Okay? I'll check on y'all next week, man. I love you. Until then, stay safe.